بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم والعاقبة للمتقين أما بعد. Respected brothers and sisters, today alhamdulillah we had completed the 19th juz, and in this juz we had completed Surah Al-Furqan followed by Surah Al-Shu'ara, and we completed a good portion of Surah Al-Naml. One of the things that we learned from the portions and the passages that we recited today is how we're supposed to go about conducting ourselves when inviting people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a challenging task. When we're going to others and inviting them to the divine and asking them to be submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially at a time when that person is submissive to their desires or submissive to other entities, it's somewhat of a challenge, if not a great challenge. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he's been given the task to go to Fir'aun. And we covered a bit of his story in the previous days. I mean, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was under tremendous stress. He's being told to go to the very person that wants to kill him, and the person that is extremely ruthless, and he has no regards for life. The only life he has regards for are the people, or is the life that is submissive to him. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he goes to Fir'aun. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told him very clearly that inna ma'akum mustami'un, that I am going to be with you listening attentively. And that's with Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and his brother Harun alayhi salatu wasalam. What I wanted to point out is the dialogue that goes on between Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Fir'aun. As soon as Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he enters into Fir'aun's court, and he begins to inform Fir'aun that Allah has blessed him with prophethood. وَجَعَلَنِي مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ, that He's made me amongst the messengers. And Fir'aun was obviously very negative towards him, that we raised you. Okay, you were in our laps as a child. And then at the end, you did that sin, you did that crime, which is totally unforgivable, where you're responsible for the life of a Coptic. So anyways, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, after hearing Fir'aun out, he begins his da'wah. And that's after Fir'aun asks, okay, this God that has sent you, you're saying that you're a messenger, right? So this God that sent you, what is he? Describe him for me. قَالَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَا رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Now Fir'aun is being sarcastic here. He doesn't really want to know who Musa alayhi salatu wasalam's God is, because he himself feels that he's God and the greatest of gods. So really what's happening, he's being sarcastic, if anything else, to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. That's not throwing Musa alayhi salatu wasalam off. Okay, when a person is now committed towards calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it doesn't matter what type of conditions they're going to face, they're going to be committed to their mission. Okay, they're not going to be thrown off by other people's ill behavior. Fir'aun is being totally unbehaved here. And he says, وَمَا رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, conducting himself in a civil manner, he describes Allah. قَالَ رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا. My Allah is basically the master and the Lord and the sustainer of the skies and the earth and whatever is in between. And you can see what Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is doing. He's trying to show the extent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sovereignty in front of the people that are under Fir'aun in this court. Fir'aun's sovereignty is only upon one piece of land called Egypt. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is trying to tell Fir'aun and the people around, my God is bigger than that. Okay, He owns not just Egypt, but He owns the whole earth, the skies that are above, and anything that falls in between. That's my Lord. رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا إِن كُنْتُم مُوقِنِينَ. If you were to only believe and have conviction. So Fir'aun now, he's getting a bit more rude, and he says to the people around him, قَالَ لِمَنْ حَوْلَهُ أَلَا تَسْتَمِعُونَ. He says to people, hear that? Hear what he's saying? Okay, so he's basically now trying to really degrade Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. أَلَا تَسْتَمِعُونَ. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is still not thrown off. Remember, he's being publicly humiliated here. Okay. he is being humiliated in front of the dignitaries of the land. That's not going to go well with a lot of people. But Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is very focused. Okay, so he says that Fir'aun says to the people around him, أَلَا تَسْتَمِعُونَ? And he says, قَالَ رَبُّكُمْ وَرَبُّ آبَائِكُمُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. So my God, He's not only the God of the people in this era, He's also the God of your first forefathers. Your sovereignty is only upon people of today, not the people of yesterday. But my God is the very owner of those people of yesterday, the day before, and the days to come ahead as well. People that you haven't even seen. Fir'aun, he's getting the message here, and he turns to the people and he says, "Inna rasulakum alladhi ursila ilaykum lamajnun." Hey, this messenger that's being sent to you guys, this guy's a lunatic. I mean, don't listen to him. The Fir'aun is now getting very agitated. Okay, so he's saying, this guy is totally lost. He's out of his mind. Innahu la majnoon. And then so Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is still not thrown off by this. So قال إن رسولكم الذي أرسل إليكم لمجنون قال رب المشرق والمغرب وما بينهما. If you want to talk about this earth, your kingdom only is this many square feet. When it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His kingdom goes from the east to the west, and everything in between is covered. Right? He's not limited by anything. And then that's when Fir'aun, he totally loses it. Okay, and he says to Fir'aun openly, لَإِنِ اتَّخَذْتَ إِلَهًا غَيْرِي لَأَجْعَلَنَّكَ مِنَ الْمَسْجُونِينَ. If you're going to take up a God other than me, then I'm going to put you in prison. You're going to get life imprisonment. So Fir'aun now, he can't really tolerate this message. Now, one of the things that you want to understand here, when it comes to people of falsehood, their falsehood is based on emotions many a times. And that's why when they're challenged, they get very, very excited. They get very emotional because their emotions are being challenged. That's what their beliefs are based on. It was based on emotion. And you'll also find that in today's era as well. The people who say that we're all about love and not about hate, we should be lovers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or we should be very kind and so forth. But their methodology is not in conformity with the methodology that our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has shared with us throughout his life. As soon as this is brought to their attention, what you will see, immediately those very people who are proclaiming love for all are really the most foul of people in terms of the language afterwards. They get very offensive because now you've challenged the emotions. That's what's happened to Fir'aun here. He doesn't have any substance to back his divinity, nothing. All he is, he's a king. Just like kings before him and kings after him. He's a pharaoh. Today he's here, tomorrow he's gone. He's got nothing to back his divinity. Absolutely nothing. So now that he's being challenged, he's getting all emotional. And and what will happen is when the people of truth, whose truth is based on evidence, it doesn't matter how much they get challenged, they've got something to present, they have something to lean on. It's called evidence. And that's what our deen is based on. Our deen is based on solid evidence, not emotions. Okay? That's the one thing that we need to become acquainted with. What is that evidence? And find out, really, there's nothing holding us back from getting answers for everything about our deen. There's answers there. So don't feel shy in accessing those answers and learning them. So what we see in this little dialogue that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shared with us is that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is composed, he's focused, he's not being put off by people who are ridiculing him. And the people who are trying to act superior, they're adopting inferior behavior. You can see that. So it doesn't matter how negative a person becomes, a true da'i to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not get put off by anything. And one of the things we also need to realize that when it comes to inviting people to Allah, there's no one-size-fits-all method. Okay, it's not like I will talk to this person here the very same way I'm going to talk to another person. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed us to do in the Quran is to exercise hikmah. Know the person that you're talking to, understand their level and speak to them at their level. The way you're going to speak to person A is not the way you're going to speak to person B. Because they're two different individuals. They have different social status. They have a different background, different level of intellect, different level of education. So this we see in the story of Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam when he is now calling Bilqis to Islam. He's using a different approach altogether, a kingly approach. The approach of a king. Because he himself is a king and a prophet, and Bilqis, she's a queen. The queen of Sheba, which is located in Yemen. And they're hundreds of miles away apart from each other. Yemen's all the way in the south of the Arabian Peninsula, and Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam is sitting in Jerusalem. Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala liberate Jerusalem. So that being said, Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam is told about this queen through his bird known as Hudhud, the hoodie bird. And he sends a letter, and in that letter, it's a very concise letter. It says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allah ta'alu alay wa'tuni muslimin. And if this message was to be exercised with other people, like us here right now, when we hear this, we're going to think, what type of a message is this? Well, what was the message? I begin in the name of Allah, who is the most merciful, the ever merciful. Don't be arrogant against me. Come to me as a Muslim. That's it. That's the message. Don't be arrogant against me. Allah ta'alu alay. Wa'tuni muslimin. Come to me in submission. Not submission to me, submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa'tuni muslimin. That's it. That's the letter. Now for people like us who are not of that status, we're going to think, oh, what type of a message is this? But for a person like her, she knew that this is a big message. Okay? And one of the things that you can admire about Bilqis, even though she's a queen, she felt the compulsion to consult with her dignitaries, right? The people that are close to her. And this is something that comes as a lesson to us. It doesn't matter how authoritative we become, it doesn't matter what type of a status we gain, mashwara, consulting with others, is something that we should always resort to before making major decisions. Even the Prophet ﷺ, there is no one bigger than him in spirituality. He's been told by Allah, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, consult with your companions in the affair. There's no one bigger than Rasulullah ﷺ. And he's being told this. And we see this example incorporated in a non-Muslim, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about. Later she does become a Muslim. But one of the things I want to point out is the level of her intellect in this whole thing. She consults, she gets a negative response from the people she's consulting with. They're saying, oh, we're strong and we're people of war. We'll just go and take them on. Let's go show them. Okay? So they're all acting all macho and everything. And she's saying, oh, wait a second. This is the nature of kings. When they come into lands, they totally annihilate them. And that's what these people are going to do. Instead of getting all emotional, I'm gonna test this person. And the test is, I'm going to send some gifts. And basically, if this man, he accepts those gifts, he's a normal king, he's a man hungry for power, we go to war with him. And if he doesn't accept those gifts, he's a man of God, we submit to him. Look at the intellect, look at how intelligent she was. Okay, and she goes ahead and exercises this test. The gifts are brought. Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, he gets extremely angry. He says, I don't need this. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me is better than what you're presenting to me. فَمَا آتَانِيَ اللَّهُ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا آتَاكُمْ بَلْ أَنْتُمْ بِهَدِيَّتِكُمْ تَفْرَحُونَ. Why don't you take your own gifts and be happy with it? Don't give me anything. I'm not in it for people's material wealth. Okay, that's got nothing. And that's the nature of a da'i. He's never sold out. He's never bought out by anyone. It doesn't matter what people are presenting of the dunya to that individual. He doesn't want to have anything of it because his sights are on the akhirah. Okay, his sights are not here. His sights are on the akhirah. Anyways, she decides to come. And now Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, he wants to take a different approach. Basically, her community was worshipping the sun. And the reason why they worship the sun is because the sun is the greatest entity that is visible. Okay, that's like probably the biggest entity that is visible, to which life is attributed. You know, And that's the way scientists also believe for a long time, until they discover there's a lot of life in the bed of the ocean where there's absolutely no sunlight. But that being said, what Sulaiman ﷺ wanted to do is make her understand that seeing is not necessarily believing. That's the philosophy we're fed. Seeing is believing. And that's not really the case. Looks can be deceiving. Right? Looks can be deceiving. So what he does is, in his palace, he fills the area in front of his throne full of water. This whole courtyard, right, or that whole area, he fills it up with water. And then what he does is he puts very fine glass and smooth glass and very clean glass on top of it. So you can't even see the glass. If you, at first glance, you think that there's water there. You wouldn't know that there's glass on top of it. That's the way he wants to now try and open up the eyes of Bilqis. Remember, he's taking a total different approach, an approach that's more philosophical and is in line with her intellect. Okay, in line with the way of her thinking. So what she does is, finally when she arrives at the palace and she sees, okay, I mean the throne is there and I have to go meet that man there. So she starts uncovering her lower garment so it doesn't get wet and she can go into and just basically walk in this water. And Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam tells her no need to do that. إِنَّهُ صَرْحٌ مُمَرَّدٌ مِّن قَوَارِيرٍ. This is basically smoothed out glass. You can just walk on top of it. And that's when she realized. Sulaiman ﷺ didn't have to start giving her a whole bunch of da'wah. Well, sister, this is Islam, and Islam's got 5 pillars, and this is the first pillar, there's a second pillar. He didn't have to give her this whole talk. Just by her realizing that looks can be deceiving, immediately she says, وَأَسْلَمْتُ مَعَ سُلَيْمَانَ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Okay, that I submit myself with Sulaiman ﷺ to the Lord of all the worlds. So what we're trying to show here is Sulaiman ﷺ exercised hikmah. He's talking to the person at their level. It's not, when it comes to da'wah, it's not one size fits all. Just understand exactly where that person is and then address them accordingly, according to their position. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ has told us, أَنزِلُوا النَّاسَ مَنَازِلَهُمْ. Treat people according to their level. And I finish off with this one last point. One of the things that we have to be when we're out calling people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is selfless. And we see that in the story of the ant, which this entire surah has been named after. This surah is called An-Naml, which means the ant. And it's a specific ant that is being spoken about. The ant that was so concerned for her fellow ant's safety that she's actually let out an alarm that Sulaiman ﷺ, his army is coming. And basically his army was marching, his army of jinn, his army of mankind, and his army of birds. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this, how they were all gathered, now they're marching, they go into a valley where there's ants. One ant sees this entire army coming its way, it lets out an alarm, everyone quickly get into your homes, so that Sulaiman ﷺ and his people don't trample you and they won't even know, because you're ants, they can't see you. But the thing that she didn't know, this ant, is that Sulaiman ﷺ speaks her language, and he understood what's going on. And he said, فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِّن قَوْلِهَا. And he smiled based on her statement. Okay, and then after that he turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to inject his heart with gratitude and gratefulness. So one of the things that we see here is that this ant became selfless and was concerned for the safety of fellow ants. From this we're being told we need to become selfless and we need to be concerned about the safety of all humanity in this world and in the hereafter. We want to make sure no one goes to Jahannam, everyone goes to Jannah. But in order to accomplish that, we have to become selfless. We have to put aside ourselves and put humanity first, and that's what we want to accomplish in this month. May Allah give us all the ability to understand and practice upon what Rasul said. Subhanallah bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.